Let me get my coffee cup. I forgot to bring it over here. Hold on.
Go ahead. So hi everybody, happy President's Day. I know people probably have the day off. Um, so let me just doing a little bit of housekeeping. So guys, please like the stream and share the stream. Okay. Got that. Yeah. All right. So I mean, we're gonna have a good show. We do have a guest coming up later on, Miss Pamela Denise Long. She is running for Congress in the state of Illinois, and also want to ask her about the reparations in Evanston, Illinois. But the main attraction, honey, we got to talk about Munich, Germany, the Munich Security Conference over the weekend. Mark Rubio, honey, put it down with his speech. So, we got to talk about AOC. She's an idiot. Hillary Clinton, she's bitter. She's upset that Trump beat her, and she's upset he won a second time. And I bet you she's jealous because Mark Rubio is a better Secretary of State than she was. So we got to talk about Hillary. I also want to talk about Tucker Carlson. He had a really interesting guest on his show, and they were talking about whiteness, white culture, the white race, not so much the white race, but just white culture here in America. And I didn't hear them say the word assimilation, but basically it's about assimilating to American culture. But what is American culture? It's essentially white culture or English, Scottish, Irish, or what have you. So we'll get into that because I am going to play that clip. Honey, we got a Don Lemon update, honey, because he pleaded not guilty, but you're still going to get charged, honey. And what else? We got to mention Gavin Newsom. Hi, Judge. How are you?
Hi there.
So I want to start with Mark Rubio, right? So over the weekend, the Munich Security Conference took place. I don't know exactly what that is. I meant to pull it up.
It's hooked up with NATO and all that stuff. It's like, the US and Europe have been inextricably bound together for a very long time. So we have essentially assumed the defense of Europe, and that has resulted in a lopsided mess for us because we're footing the bill, but others get to enjoy the benefits.
So it says the Munich Security Conference is the world's leading independent forum for debating international security policy, held annually in February in Munich, Germany. It brings together 450 senior decision makers, including heads of states, ministers, and security experts around 70 countries to discuss pressing global security challenges and foster diplomatic initiatives. Honey, can you please put them dogs up? Put them in that back closet. Thank you, 771. Where you go, Judge? Tippy
That's
tongue
where
off.
they are. Hold on.
Yeah, put them tired of hearing Mahogany barking. She barked too damn much.
Soccer. Back. Come on in.
Well, come on in where?
They were barking. She was barking because she plays soccer. She got a soccer ball, and though she uses her front leg rather than her
Well,
back
can
leg,
you
she
put
was
them
just
up
like
in
a
the back
soccer player.
closet? Put them up in the back.
I just let them in so they'll stop barking. Okay, now. Oh, she'll stop barking.
Oh, they'll stop barking because you let them in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, can you get situated so we could get into the show?
Okay. Didn't want to eat on camera, but I needed to do something to keep the blood sugar up.
I told you to eat 2 hours ago.
Busy writing
No, you weren't.
as I was. I wrote a long, long thing. I'm gonna start publishing it for this other thing that I'm doing, politics for real. And post back on X again.
That's what you were doing.
Well, yeah, but it's only indirectly for X. X started off for me as a way to write books with a little feedback to see what was happening. And I'd gotten rusty, so I was teaching myself to write again. And to be brief and to the point, that thing where you had at one point 140 spaces and then 280 was an excellent tool for doing that.
All right, so let's get into Mark Rubio. So this is about 4 minutes because his speech was about 20 something minutes, and I'm not going to play the whole speech, but I do want to play this clip here just to set off the conversation. And then I want to get into AOC comments, Hillary Clinton comments, Gavin Newsom, the Three Stooges. But let's start off with.
I like that. Three Stoogettas.
Well, let's start off with Rubio. Damn, honey. 2028, Rubio 2028, honey.
For 5 centuries before the end of the Second World War, the West had been expanding. Its missionaries, its pilgrims, its soldiers, its explorers pouring out from its shores to cross oceans, settle new continents, build vast empires extending out across the globe. But in 1945, for the first time since the age of Columbus, it was contracting. Europe was in ruins. Half of it lived behind an iron curtain, and the rest looked like it would soon follow. The great Western empires had entered into terminal decline, accelerated by godless communist revolutions and by anti-colonial uprisings that would transform the world and drape the red hammer and sickle across vast swaths of the map in the years to come. Against that backdrop, then as now, many came to believe that the West's age of dominance had come to an end, and that our future was destined to be a faint and feeble echo of our past. But together, our predecessors recognized that decline was a choice, and it was a choice they refused to make. This is what we did together once before, and this is what President Trump and the United States want to do again now, together with you. And this is why we do not want our allies to be weak, because that makes us weaker. We want allies who can defend themselves so that no adversary will ever be tempted to test our collective strength. This is why we do not want our allies to be shackled by guilt and shame. We want allies who are proud of their culture and of their heritage, who understand that we are heirs to the same great and noble civilization, and who together with us are willing and able to defend it. And this is why we do not want allies to rationalize the broken status quo rather than reckon with what is necessary to fix it. For we in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline. We do not seek to separate, but to revitalize an old friendship and renew the greatest civilization in human history. What we want is a reinvigorated alliance that recognizes that what has ailed our societies is not just a set of bad policies, but a malaise of hopelessness and complacency. An alliance is the alliance that we want is one that is not paralyzed into inaction by fear. Fear of climate change, fear of war, fear of technology. Instead, we want an alliance that boldly races into the future. And the only fear we have is the fear of the shame of not leaving our nations prouder, stronger, and wealthier for our children. An alliance ready to defend our people, to safeguard our interests, and to preserve the freedom of action that allows us to shape our own destiny. Not one that exists to operate a global welfare state and atone for the purported sins of past generations. An alliance that does not allow its power to be outsourced, constrained, or subordinated to systems beyond its control. One that does not depend on others for the critical necessities of its national life. and one that does not maintain the polite pretense that our way of life is just one among many, and that asks for permission before it acts. And above all, an alliance based on the recognition that we, the West, have inherited together. What we have inherited together is something that is unique and distinctive and irreplaceable, because this, after all, is the very foundation of the transatlantic bond.
Okay, spoken like a true son of Spain. They started it, you know.
Started what?
The Vikings made a move on it. That's the Scandinavians, but they fell by the wayside. And then remember the Italiano guy, Christopher Columbus, and he got sponsored by Ferdinand and Isabella, House of Seville and Castile, down there in Spain in 1492 to go find a way to the west, well, to Asia, going the different ways so you could bring in spices and all of the riches. So they started this. They set up the Spanish Empire that then and took over, and that tradition of the Western world that was started by Spain. They used to be the major or operator in it years ago, and we ought to look at that and say, hey, they were on top. Then England got on top. Now we're on top, but we're doing the same thing that both of them did before. We have let things slip and we have fallen. Now, nobody even associates Spain with being the mechanism by which the Western world spread to the rest of the planet.
Mm-hmm. Well, so that was his remarks. It was about, because I listen.
I listened to the whole thing, by the way. You got me turned on to it. It's a brilliant speech, absolutely brilliant. And he went off and he relied on all of the rest of it. And what you are listening to is famously something that Eisenhower termed the military-industrial complex. He warned us against them, but they do cause things to happen, and it is an inevitable consequence of the dynamics of diplomacy and politics on the world stage, and we can't get around it. And we've got a big operator, the biggest country in the world now, one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful all overall, but not necessarily militarily, and that's the People's Republic of China.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if I could find another part here.
Of a historic alliance, an alliance that saved and changed the world. You know, when this conference began in 1963, it was in a nation, actually it was on a continent, that was divided against itself. The line between communism and freedom ran through the heart of Germany. The first barbed fences of the Berlin Wall had gone up just 2 years prior. And just months before that first conference, before our predecessors first met here in Munich, the Cuban Missile Crisis had brought the world to the brink of nuclear destruction. Even as World War II still burned fresh in the memory of Americans and Europeans alike, we found ourselves staring down the barrel of a new global catastrophe, one with the potential for a new kind of destruction, more apocalyptic and final than anything before in the history of mankind. The time of that first gathering, Soviet communism was on the march. Thousands of years of Western civilization hung in the balance. At that time, victory was far from certain. But we were driven by a common purpose. We were unified not just by what we were fighting against. We were unified by what we were fighting for. And together, Europe and America prevailed. And a continent was rebuilt. Our people prospered. In time, the East and West blocks were reunited. A civilization was once again made whole. That infamous wall that had cleaved this nation into two came down, and with it an evil empire. and the East and West became one again. But the euphoria of this triumph led us to a dangerous delusion that we had entered, quote, the end of history, that every nation would now be a liberal democracy, that the ties formed by trade and by commerce alone would now replace nationhood, that the rules-based global order, an overused term, would now replace the national interest, and that we would now live in a world without borders where everyone became a citizen of the world. This was a foolish idea that ignored both human nature and it ignored the lessons of over 5,000 years of recorded human history. And it has cost us dearly. In this delusion, we embraced a dogmatic vision of free and unfettered trade, even as some nations protected their economies and subsidized their companies to systematically undercut ours, shuttering our plants, resulting in large parts of our societies being deindustrialized, shipping millions of working and middle-class jobs overseas, and handing control of our critical supply chains to both adversaries and rivals. We increasingly outsourced our sovereignty to international institutions while many nations invested in massive welfare states at the cost of maintaining the ability to defend themselves. This, even as other countries have invested in the most rapid military buildup in all of human history and have not hesitated to use hard power to pursue their own interests. To appease a climate cult, we have imposed energy policies on ourselves that are impoverishing our people, even as our competitors exploit oil and coal and natural gas and anything else, not just to power their economies, but to use as leverage against our own. And in a pursuit of a world without borders, we opened our doors to an unprecedented wave of mass migration that threatens the cohesion of our societies, the continuity of our culture, and the future of our people.
Listen, I think
Was great.
that speech, he intentionally made sure that he delivered one of the most important speeches of his career and what we need right now to set the stage for 2028 for him.
Well, yeah, but don't forget J.D. Vance either. So, I mean,
I
both of
haven't
them
forgotten JD Vance, but this is JD's Vance competition. But JD
no,
Vance,
I don't think it's competition. Perhaps it's a supplement or a team, and let's see how it works out. I think we
right. No,
need
no, no.
both of them.
If they're both going to throw their hats in, which means you're going to be competitive. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to end up being a team in 2028. JD Vance can't be vice president again. So if he wins presidency, I think he'll make Mark Rubio his vice president.
That's what I was indicating to. Rubio has a great deal of future left in his political career. And going to the presidency has always been facilitated by going through the vice presidency first. So that is something I think is an important consideration. He speaks well, so does J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance has a facility that he has that is similar to a stand-up comedian. He's fast on his feet. This man can come up with a good speech. Both of them are great. Meanwhile, the Democrats have what? Nothing. Zero. Newsom?
Well, they
Newsom
have
offers you.
her. They have AOC.
Well, I'm just saying, that's just Hollywood garbage. That's like saying, okay, John Wayne is a great war hero, and then you ask what campaigns was he actually in? How many times did he get wounded? How many machine gun emplacements did he take over?
All right, let me play AOC, her couple of her responses. So this is her response to Mark Rubio's speech.
You are starting to see the ascent of the right, even in places like Munich. Marco Rubio's speech was a pure appeal to Western culture. My favorite part was when he said that American cowboys came from Spain.
I thought they came from Winnetou, but
I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word on that. But You know, I think it's also important to note how thin that foundation is. Culture is changing. Culture always changed. Culture for the entire history of human civilization has been a fluid, evolving thing that is a response to the conditions that we live in. And so they want to take this mantle of culture. At the end of the day, though, is, you know, it is very thin. And so the response that we have to have is, again, it's material, it's class-based, it's common interest. There was certainly more openness to what I was saying than probably there would be in years past. We can't underestimate the appeal of going back to these well-worn grooves. A lot of what we talk about when we talk about a class-based internationalist perspective also means ending the hypocrisy towards the global South.
What the fuck was she talking about?
What kind of mess was that? Is she consuming the same drug that Mrs. Imhoff was? What was that? Now, look, let me tell you how stupid that sounded. How is she classified in the census?
What do you, probably Hispanic,
Yeah, where does that come from?
unless she checked off white. I don't know.
That well, either way, that's Iberian Peninsula. That started, as I mentioned earlier, this whole colonialistic thing, this spread of Western culture around the world. So, what is she talking about? I mean, and then the Cowboys. Oh, for God's sake! Columbus brought the first bunch of horses back over here. They originated here a very, very long time ago, but seems like my Native American ancestors had a taste for them and ate them up. They learned their lesson and protected the bison, but meanwhile, it was her people from Iberian Peninsula, aka Spain, aka Al Andalus, if you take the Arabic term for it. And they brought the horses over here. And the whole thing was,
Everyone assimilated the
yeah,
weather.
but this whole thing with the Western cowboy, that's straight up and down. Yes, it's Mexican, but what in the world is wrong with her? Doesn't she get the fact that Mexico at the time was a colony of Spain? So, I mean, it's like,
Oh, listen. All right,
what is this garbage?
I have some more. These are seconds, you know, a few seconds, under a minute.
Oh,
There's a very big difference between whiteness and national, like your actual culture, right? Whiteness is an imaginary thing. Being German is real. Being Italian is real. You know, being English. These are rich cultural heritages that are based on values, and they are so much a part of what make our cultures and our societies what they are. There's a very
she doesn't even have good English. But anyway, that's another thing. I guess that's,
And we have another
Right.
one.
well, come
You know, we look at what happened in Venezuela, for example. It is not a, it is not a remark on who Maduro was as a leader. He canceled elections. He was an anti-democratic leader. That doesn't mean that we can kidnap a head of state and engage in acts of war just because the nation is below the equator. And
So why are they clapping? Because Venezuela is above the equator, it's north of the equator here.
Well, here's the thing, too. See, what they're missing is this. The United States has a very interesting position. It's essentially a giant island, part of a giant island. and it's got the Atlantic on one side, the Pacific on the other side. So its borders are remote except from its immediate neighbor to the north, Canada, and to the south, Mexico. Now, what happens is the United States has essentially become the Rome of the modern world, where it is an assimilation of everything that was Europe, everything that was Asia, and a lot of what was Africa. All right. So it has come together. So we took the best of what they were about, and we do what they did better than they did. And it worked out because of our geographic location, circumstances, and polyglot population composed of the people that had just had enough of Europe and wanted to be on the top and take advantage of the opportunity, who got tempered by this frontier life where no excuses were accepted and you could die both from the environment and from the people that already lived there or the people that were coming in. It was a violent, dangerous place. And with that all in the mix, we do what they did better. Now, granted, they spread. I was looking at a thing online where they were taking a conference that the People's Republic of China was having with itself, a big thing, and everybody in there was dressed in Western attire, suit, white shirt, and tie, or basically something similar. I listened to something else, and it was in Japan, and the air traffic controllers were using English, which is a polyglot conglomeration of German and French and Spanish put together to use there in their communications. So I'm looking at the militaries of the world are based on the Western model. Granted, they got the gunpowder from China, but they have the Western model. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying that's what these people are sometimes mad about, that we do Germany better than Germany does. We do France better than the French do their own place. We do England better than that. We do Scandinavian better than that. And it all works. So we came in and saved them. We put the largest army together in world's history at the end of World War II.
Mhm.
And then we put everybody back on their feet.
Right.
And
That was what Mark Rubio was speaking to.
that's what he was talking about. And that makes it feel bad when you're used to a long tradition where Charlemagne, the real Charlemagne, a 7'2" tall proto Hitler, ran Europe, where you have the culture and traditions of the Roman legions, where you have England and the Royal Navy ruling the waves, where you have uh, what you have, and you've got this Russian bear on the other side that used to scare everybody because of its vast magnitude land-wise and its resources that just were ill managed but scared the hell out of everybody. So people get upset by getting upstaged, you know?
Right. Let me play this other clip. This is still at the Munich.
May I make one little observation too that
Uh-huh.
is in this? What these people are talking about is up there, there's a cloud level, and it's nuclear arms. And most people don't really get the gravity of that. My dad took me when I was about 10 years old to Las Vegas, where they used to invite people to come in and watch the nuclear test. They'd set them off, and they'd usually do it before sunrise when it was still dark. We went, and we were on the top of this casino, which is not like they are now. They look more like department stores, and we had to stand in the Negro section. It was segregated. And they set this bomb off, and I was a little nerd in those days, and I knew it was like 50 kilotons, about 3 times as big as what they dropped on Hiroshima. It lit up the whole sky. It turned broad daylight, high noon, And when the concussive blast hit everybody, you could hear all of the windows in the casino rattling, and it was a noticeable jar. They said, hold your car keys up by your fingers and see what happens. And they rattled. And this thing is miles and miles away. And I'm just saying, wow, it impressed the devil out of me. And I talked about it with my fellows, and like duck and cover was real for us. We'd have these drills in elementary school and junior high school. Duck and cover, jump under the desk.
What is
It's
your point?
about to go down. The point is that's the backdrop. And the point is we've been holding an umbrella over Europe and a lot of the rest of the world to keep these nuclear raindrops from hitting them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time that we came back into doing our thing so we can sustain it. It's like we've been writing checks on overdrawn accounts to sustain the rest of the world and pay for AOC and companies' bankrupt social policy. So Rubio is saying we can't do it any longer. We have the checkbook now. We've been doing the accounting. There's going to have to be some cutbacks and some changes because we cannot afford to keep this up any longer. Get on your stick. If you want this to keep happening, pull out your own paychecks. We've made sure that your checkbooks, we've made sure you got something in your accounts. You start paying. You're grown again. Let's do it.
Let me play this other clip of AOC.
Offer. And to all of you, and Congressman, I'll start with you, would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is a,
Today, Junior!
This is, of course, a very long-standing policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Oh, that was so much BS. That's like you should have just said no comment.
Right.
Because that's all it was.
Yeah. And you don't have the authority to really speak on that type of foreign security policy. And you don't know really. You
Actually,
can't.
she's ignorant.
Yes.
She has had the opportunity in her position as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives to fully apprise herself of the circumstances. And this ignorant little witch has not done it because she's living off of a continuous series of you are a victim, put me in so I can profit from it. And look at what her income is now. And how old is she? So where did she get this money off of having no job outside of what the public pays her for exercising, which is it does not compute? How about her hubby?
Right.
And the specter of alleged insider trading on information. So, this is a person who has become wealthy.
I think you're talking about Elian husband, but
No, well, Ilion too, and her. Well, not she doesn't have a husband, but
no, she just got married, but it's
just got married. Okay, yeah,
husband that's probably got some fraud.
Well, how did she get so well off? What is she? 32 years old?
Let me see real quick. She 36.
36. Oh, she aged. She's been around 10 years now. Oh, wow, that's horrible. But anyway,
let me play this Gavin Newsom.
Bad. Okay, Ilion.
Yeah. To sort of fill that void and to express what I hope you understand, that Donald Trump is not only temporary, but he may be among the most un-American presidents ever to have resided at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I really believe that. I don't say that lightly. He's an invasive species. He's taken over the Republican Party You know, I sit every single day in Ronald Reagan's old office. Ronald Reagan was governor of California. Ronald Reagan would be ashamed of this moment in time. You know, Ronald Reagan, whose last speech in the Oval Office was about Lady Liberty's torch, about the energy and daring of newcomers and what defines America from the rest of the globe. Those values are being vandalized in real time. Our republic is being vandalized in real time. This historic project of our founding fathers. It's the 250th anniversary this year. And every day we're fighting the fight to save our republic. And he is an historic president. And it's important you understand this. Historically unpopular. He is going to get crushed in the midterm elections. Crushed in the midterm elections. He's going to lose his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose tariffs. He will lose that at the Supreme Court in a matter of months. That's been the source of most of his energy and most of his negotiating power. And by the way, the source of most of his direct dealing. The most corrupt president in American history. What are so many of the foreign policy trips have in common? Members of his family there first. Setting the tone and tenor, setting the course of the deal. For the tower, the golf course, for the investments, for the crypto. Witkoff, not just Trump. Partnerships with the family. It's all there in plain sight. It's open. It's not the $400 million planes as the tithing and gifts. Billions and billions of dollars in the last year. It's not about policy making, it's about profit making.
You little weaselly, treasonous, incompetent poser. You are an embarrassment. See, these people out there resent the fact that we have had, okay, let's break it down. We've had Donald Trump. We've had, okay, commander of the Northeast Atlantic Nuclear Ballistic Missile Submarine Fleet. Most people don't know that, but it was number one in its class at Annapolis, Jimmy Carter, for whatever else his failings. We had John F. Kennedy, war hero. We had Ike Eisenhower, military commander-in-chief of the invasion forces that threw Adolf out of Europe.
Well, here's the thing.
We have Harry Truman, who was captain
let me
in
say
World
this.
War. Wait a minute, let me run this down.
But
And they
don't break it
don't
all the way
like it.
down.
Now we've got another Donald Trump who is a great president, and they hate it because they have nothing to offer against it. Because basically, he has no agenda other than effectiveness. And the Democratic Party is agenda driven, a social agenda driven party, and they don't have anything that on the table or in their dreams that would offer somebody who is focused on practicality.
Judge, let me run through these clips. I don't want a
Okay.
long dissertation for each clip because we're on a time schedule here.
All
'Cause I
right.
have to get to the
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton. But let me play this one because he mentions Hitler here.
But I want to remember all those images of masked men, the secret police, something familiar in Germany. Those first images came out of my state, the second largest city in the United States of America. We saw 4,000 National Guard federalized. First time, we'd never seen anything like this. And 700 active duty Marines sent not overseas, but to the second largest city in the United States of America, militarizing the streets of my city. Masked men showing up, unaccountable, no IDs. But I want.
So he's talking about ICE and comparing Trump administration to Nazi Germany while he's in Germany. But I want to go back to when he was talking about.
Well, excuse you, idiot. I remember being a freshman at UCLA when 15,000 troops were in Los Angeles in 1965, August to be precise. I remember when things went down in 1968, where a Democrat in Chicago Mayor Daley called out the police, and there was what was styled a police riot. I was around as a senior in college when they had Kent State, when the National
Okay,
Guard
what is
shot
the
down
point? Come on,
students.
Judge.
Yeah, real nice.
So here's the thing. I wanted to briefly swing. I'm sorry, give me a second.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I hear you. You said give you a second.
Okay. I wanted to briefly talk about his comments that he made about Ronald Reagan. And you know, he was like, Ronald Reagan would be disappointed. And it's like, Ronald Reagan, he was a piece of shit. He, you know, he wasn't a good president. Donald Trump is a way better president than Ronald Reagan ever was. So, you know, and I guess he has to pick a Republican president, Gavin Newsom, to allude to see, oh, Ronald Reagan would be so upset. Ronald Reagan was horrible. So again, and then you can't compare Ronald Reagan to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is way more superior and effective and better than Ronald Reagan was.
Well, let's put it this way. Since it's President's Day, one of the presidents who is specifically honored today is Abraham Lincoln. He is the only American president who was vilified more than Donald Trump. And look at him.
Right.
He is honored because of what he did. He straightened out the country. He was trying to end a horrible dependency of this country on something that we still suffer the negative effects from. This republic is constipated, and somebody needs to administer a laxative and an enema. And the process, except for perhaps a freak, is an unpleasant one. And what comes out doesn't smell too good.
So let me play a couple of clips from Hillary Clinton.
I think we need to call it for what it is.
Secretary
There is a
Clinton.
legitimate reason to have a debate about things like migration. It went too far. It's been disruptive and destabilizing, and it needs to be fixed in a humane way with secure borders that don't torture and kill people. I think we need to call it for
torture and kill
Wait,
people on the border. What I saw
let me-
was wide open. Nobody was even stopping anybody to check them.
All right, let me play these clips.
Thank you so much for those incredibly kind words. It's an honor to be here with you, Secretary Clinton. It's an honor to be here with another trailblazer, Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. And of course, it's an honor to be here with my fellow panelists. And the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, as well. Once politicians start naming other politicians in a room, it never stops. There is no question in the United States that after decades of historic progress on gender equality writ large, and specifically more recently on LGBTQ rights, that we are facing, as you mentioned, a well-organized, well-funded, right-wing regressive movement. And they really have placed trans people at the center of that effort, but we should be clear that the consequences of this anti-trans effort, not only out of proximity, but out of intentionality, will include consequences for women of all backgrounds. Because at the end of the day, transphobia, homophobia, misogyny, and sexism are all rooted in the same prejudice. The belief that one perception at birth should dictate who you are, how you act, what you do, who you love, and how you dress. And it's why threats toward trans people are threats toward all women.
I didn't like that last part.
Whoa, how deeply stupid is that?
Well, this was a panel that Hillary Clinton was on. And the woman that was speaking, well, the transgender woman that was speaking is Sarah.
The transgender man.
Well, no, it would be a transgender woman because born a boy and lives a life.
So was he born as a boy? He's a male, transgender male.
No, that would be if they live their life as, if you're born a boy and you living your life as a woman, that's a transgender woman. If you were born a girl and you live your life as a man, that's a transgender man.
Okay, fine. But the point is,
it's
counterfeit. It's
right.
fake.
So
That doesn't make it real. So let's not act like it's real by giving it the dignity of
I'm
the
not
real
going.
name.
I don't want to go into that. Let
I
me
refuse. It's a
fine,
transgender male. That's what
whatever
it is.
to you, but let me
No,
place
it is for reality. I
no.
lock people up for
Her
counterfeiting.
label would be transgender woman.
It
That's all.
ain't that. It ain't for anybody but this particular group spreading this popular pop propaganda. Let's be straight. There
They're
is no such
transgender.
thing as a transgender woman unless it's a woman trying to play man. There is no such thing as a transgender man unless it's a woman trying to play. Well, yeah, a man trying.
You confusing
Anyway, the
yourself. Let's
designation
just
is
move
male.
on from that.
What does the coroner see when you're laid out on the slab after you're dead?
That's fine. But the fact is that I don't like the part when she said the violation of transgender women is a violation to all women, and that's just not true. And
It's a
that was part,
protection of women.
but and a violation. She used the word violation, but
I know.
the point that I'm trying to make here is they're all the way in Munich, Germany. You know, these liberals and Democrats, and this is what they do when they go to these conferences. They implement their or try to implement their ideology throughout the world, and they're creating this false narrative because whatever happens to trans does not happen to women. The problem is the trans invading women's spaces. So it seems
Well,
like it's more
yeah,
so about
I agree with you. That's what I'm saying. In other words, do not take their sick propagandistic terms and use them and continue to help them tell the lie, spread the lie. See, the point is that they have a right under the system that this republic operates under to do whatever they want. That's their First Amendment right. But they do not have a right to involve the rest of the 360 million of us to use the U.S. government to foster their rainbow theology on the rest of the world and on this republic. The Constitution says you can't do that. So they go around it and try to disregard the Constitution and by any means necessary put what they want out there. And by the way, this Trump administration, I've gone back and checked, has more women in vital positions than any other administration that's come before it. And by the way, they're pretty good looking women too, which is a change of pace.
all right, let me
So
do this clip here.
I guess maybe the homely ones are all upset because they've got these pretty ones running stuff. You know, pretty women are supposed to be what? Dumb blonde types, not smart types. So, I mean, yeah,
More
okay, I
people
get it.
were deported under my husband and Barack Obama without killing American citizens and without putting children into detention camps than were in the first Trump term or this first year of Trump's second term. So I think it's important.
Stop.
No, I'm
Who's
not going
been
to
killed?
stop.
Wait a minute, just one quick comment.
Stop
Question.
doing that.
Who's been killed? You get two people? 4, 5 in all of this, and you're talking about
Don't
trying to
start with
spread
the
this to
stop.
generic
These
something?
are short clips.
No.
Don't start with the stop. These are short clips.
Okay, go ahead. I'll forget my
It's
point.
only 24 seconds. No, you could remember 24 after 24 seconds.
More people were deported under my husband and Barack Obama without killing American citizens and without putting children into detention camps than were in the first Trump term or this first year of Trump's second term. So I think it's important.
She's lying.
Of course she's lying. It's a
Let me
blatant lie.
say this. Barack Obama put not only children, but separated the children from their mothers or fathers because he had women's, men, and children camps. That's what he did, Barack Obama. So again, yes, they deported the most, and there was no protests. You know, there were no uproar. There were no American citizens interfering with ICE because it was ICE there doing their job. They weren't protesting, spitting, trying to, run them over. They weren't doing none of that. So none of them got shot under Bill Clinton and Obama because people didn't care.
Well, how about this one?
Let
Wasn't her
me finish. The Democrats are using this and putting it in the media to make crazy ass liberals care and create a narrative of, oh, ICE is slave patrol and they're taking kids and separating families, and everybody is forgetting that these are illegals and a lot of them are illegal criminals.
Okay, now let's just get back to something else. Barack Obama nor her husband were in the Oval Office when Al Qaeda decided under bin Laden to go hijack some aircraft and crash them into the Twin Towers and the Pentagon. All right? Now, they did that. They're still out there. And her predecessor that she was supporting, Biden, and that witch, Kamala Imhoff, they opened the borders wide open. Al Qaeda, ISIS, and Hamas got to come in and bring whatever they wanted. And we saw all of the videos of the border being wide open, them coming through holes in the fence. And the border officials standing there with folded arms because they'd been ordered to let them come through. How many millions of people contain how many thousands of Al Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, Iranian, North Korean, and Chinese enemies of this country that can have another 911 without trying to play suicide bomber or kamikaze to do it? See, that's on her. And this crap here is horrible. It is a misstatement of facts. How many people are you talking about dying? Very few. I'm looking at the restraint that I'm seeing with ICE. When you have the authority of the government and the state, it's not a matter of politeness. Will you please, do you want me to beg you again to please do what we're asking you to do? No, this is the authority of the United States of America. And follow the instructions. It's on camera. We're looking at it. And when you're not and you're clowning around, you need to be taught to respect the authority of the state. If you don't like what's going on, stand off at a distance and protest. Don't get yourself involved in it. And by the way, what you're trying to emulate by copying the civil rights thing was supposed to be peaceful, nonviolent demonstrations. That didn't switch over into what you were doing until the late mid 60s when people were out there trying to disrupt things, cause public disturbances, and break the law on purpose for a point. So when you do that, remember there was Kent State. There was what happened in Chicago in 1968. There was what happened in D.C. all through the 60s. It was what happened in Los Angeles in 1965, Chicago in that time period. All of that was going on. So if you want to go there, take the consequences. Don't try to be namby-pamby-poo. They are just so victimized because somebody's trying to protect us from national invasion. Right? Oh, did she forget about that? Okay. Oh, man.
Sorry about that, guys. Give me a second. Test. I don't know what happened with the judge. Testing. Okay, I can hear myself. I don't know what I had to step away for a second, but I guess he had come back. I don't. God. Let me text him. Because I was trying to tell him to keep talking because I had to take this phone call. Oh, here he goes. You're dark. I don't know what happened. I can't see you or hear you. I can't see you or hear you. You gotta go. I gotta go out. Yeah, go out and come back. Yeah, come back in. Yeah. So yeah, so I wanted him to keep talking, but because I had to take this call, it was important. And then when I came on the screen, I was like, keep going, but I guess he got kicked off. So yeah. Just wait for him to come back. Let me see something here. Yeah, that's what I wanted. Oh, I was about to say. Where is he? We don't really deal in reality. You look down. Thank you. Okay, here he goes. Let's see. Okay, you still black. Still black. Can't hear you, can't see you. Still black. So go out and come back. I think he could see and hear me, but we can't see or hear him. There. No, still black. You're still black. Thank you guys for the donations. I see the super chats. I see a couple of I see the cash apps and a couple of super chats. I am going to get to the super chats. I will be reading it and displaying it on the screen. Guys, can you please hit the like button? Please share this video. Because we do have a couple other stuff to talk about and get into. Yeah. I don't really think I need to fundamental women's rights. No, I don't need to share that one. That one. No, I don't need that one. Actually, let me bring this back out. What is this here? All right, let me save this here. We're just gonna wait for the judge to come back. I don't know what is going on. And it does, and honestly, I know this is live, but what I do, I go back, I edit up clips. So, everything will be edited up and then I'll premiere it. So yeah. It's no biggie. It is what it is. Let's see. Let's see. Where is he? Okay, he didn't come back in yet. I'm just gearing up some more clips. All right. And then I think I'm just going to go into the next topic because I really don't know what was the last thing he said. So, yeah, mostly just her word solid. Okay, I will reach out. I will rewatch. Yeah. So, thank you, Improve. Yeah, I think this is the thing. A lot of times, people don't really, I think the algorithm don't like it when I talk about geopolitics. for some reason. But I'm getting this weird thing in my phone that says my video service being interrupted to prevent disturbance. I can't take a screenshot. I'm going to try a different Wi-Fi. All right, so he's going to try a different Wi-Fi. I told him, like, I'm going to get Starlink, and I think he should get it. Option 2 says no internet connection. I don't understand that. What is going on, honey? We may have to come back later. We may have to come back tonight. We may have to come back tonight and finish it up tonight. Hey.
Hello?
Yeah. So what is you can't get back on?
I have never had this happen before.
So do you wanna
Say I've got a thing I can't screenshot it. It says my video internet connection on the last. I was going to another Wi-Fi and it said no internet connection on that one. And I'm going to try a third one.
Well, try a third one and then also we can end the stream now and come back tonight.
Well, here's what happened. I've never had this happen except one time. I was in Zurich, Switzerland. It said it's a gray screen. It says your video access is being. What did it say? Hold on. It says my video services are being interrupted to prevent public disturbance. And I can't take a screenshot of the doggone thing.
I've never heard of that.
I haven't either, but the only time I can remember seeing a scene like this, I was in the airport in Zurich, Switzerland on a 6-hour layover to get a connection flight back to the U.S., and I was telling my wife about how the sign said they were apologizing for the totalitarian atmosphere that these people from Switzerland would find when they got to America. And the screen went blank and it said your service is being interrupted due to a security problem pursuant to Homeland Security /Patriot Act, etc., etc.
What were you saying about Hillary, honey, to get interrupted?
It said
so
video services are being interrupted to prevent public disturbance. I can't and I couldn't take a screenshot of the doggone thing. It wouldn't allow it. It just turned up blank. I tried 3 times.
So do you want to try to come on? Honestly, how about we just come back tonight and do it?
How about if I try one more time?
Try okay.
Wi-Fi's in the house.
All right, try it again.
Try one through Xfinity and see if that works. I tried the one that I got through Amazon, which is listed as JB, and I tried the old one I had, and I can't. The JB says no internet connection, and the first one is the one I got this mess through. Let me try again.
Okay.
This is absurd.
All right. I mean, because I don't like the interruption. We're only an hour in, but it's just like, you know, if he's having problems, and then 2, it is a holiday. So a lot of kids are home from school. A lot of people are home from work. So people are probably on the Wi-Fi all at once as well this afternoon. That could be it. Because the Wi-Fi in his area is janky. And real quick, so there he goes. Starlink is affordable. Starlink is only $25 a month. It's affordable. That's why I am going to get it.
This is through a third Wi-Fi at our house, though I have it at my house because of such things. I have to say, just briefly, the screen went blank, and then I got a gray one, and it says, because in so many words, I was causing discomfort to the public so my video services would be temporarily disconnected for 2 hours. I haven't gotten anything like that in about 15 years. And last time I was passing through Zurich, Switzerland to make a connection. It was a
Well, the
6 some
people
hour
already
late.
heard, the people heard you say that because I had you on speaker. So
Okay, well, I mean, it's just absolutely absurd. What is this censorship? And what was I particularly saying that was so dangerous or discomforting?
I have no idea. I want to get to this topic.
This has been happening several times, but not to this extent. They didn't put it out there. And I tried to, well, you heard the thing I said about screenshot then. Okay.
So I want to bring this up here. So this is Tucker Carlson, and he was interviewing somebody. His name is Aaron McIntyre. So this segment here says, what is American culture? I mean, what is a heritage American? Heritage American. Wait a minute. Okay.
The large amount of our government right now is just a wealth transfer between heritage Americans and the new political class that's being moved into rule society. That's just the dynamic we're seeing. And this happened in Rome. This has happened many, many times over. You can see many historical examples.
So the H-1B thing is just so the enemy is what you call heritage Americans. What are those?
Heritage Americans are those that are actually tied. You could find their last names in the Civil War registry. Like they have a tie to the history and to the land. And, Samuel Huntington is a guy who I really like. He wrote the Clash of Civilizations and Who Are We? And, I think won his debate with Francis Fukuyama pretty decisively. But, he said in Who Are We, his book about American identity, the core of American identity is the Anglo-Protestant spirit. And he's a man of the center left, as a Harvard professor. This is a guy who's not, he's not, you can only be an Anglo or a Protestant to be part of America. But he says even the Catholics and Jews in America take on this Anglo-Protestant affect in some way. And so you have to have this majority culture for people to assimilate to. And so when we're talking about a heritage American, we're either talking about someone who is tied specifically to that tradition or someone who has come here and has been here for generations, but understands that they are conforming to that way of being, that's the core of society.
And what is that way? Can you describe the Anglo-Protestant worldview?
I mean, obviously, we could spend entire books on that, and that has been done.
Well, it's almost never mentioned.
It's true, yeah.
And which I think is interesting because those are the people who founded the country and set up every system that we're benefiting from now, from our economic and political systems, or have been benefiting from, maybe not anymore, but those are the founders. It was 100% Anglo-Protestant, like 100%.
Right.
So why don't we ever mention that culture?
Because we're very terrified of the idea that ideas are particular to cultures and peoples. That sounds very scary and old world.
It's true.
Of course it's true. It's obviously true. And we know that because now we laugh whenever we try to export democracy to Afghanistan or something, right?
Well, I know it from traveling a lot.
Right, exactly.
I go to different countries and I don't hate their cultures or ideas at all. I don't have to live under them. I'm just visiting. I think they're really interesting, but they're very different because the people are different, inherently different.
Yes. And when you change the people, you change the culture, which is why our Western governments are so busy trying to replace those populations.
Yeah, when you change the population, you change the country. You
change the country and you change the principles that it's going to be founded on. We look at the Declaration of Independence and it says we hold these truths to be self-evident. If you go to Afghanistan, are the truths of the Constitution self-evident to them?
No.
Of course not. Because when they said self-evident, they meant to people in our tradition, to us. To the people who descended us, who share our values, who speak our language, who speak, the type of heritage that we understand. That's where that comes from. Again, it doesn't mean that other people can't be grafted into that and absorb that. But the idea of a purely propositional nation that is in no way tied to a culture or a people, but is entirely a collection of abstract things agreed to in some social contract before society even began is just ridiculous. And it's not the way the Constitution was even understood when it was written. Our founder said very famously that the Constitution is for a moral and religious people. They had a particular understanding of how we would have to live our lives and what that would look like if we were going to be able to live under the republic that they erected.
All true. I interrupted you with my outburst of rage when I asked you what exactly are the presupposition. What's the nature of this Anglo-Protestant culture that founded this country?
I think this is where people get a lot of the ideas of a decent amount of individualism. This has always been a key part of it. Also, restrained government, the idea that government would be limited is something tied to the Magna Carta, right? Like, yes, they had became a constitutional monarchy, but we can see a direct line from what the English were doing with their set of government and the way that we understand our society. The idea that free speech is something sacred, that the individual conscience and the practice of religion is something that needs to be maintained. These are all core values that when you actually look in other societies, they don't look the same. Free speech in Germany does not look the same.
There's no Slavic society, and I love Slavic societies, just being honest. They're great, but they don't see free speech as a foundational God-given right. They just don't.
Right. And
they're whiter than I am. So it's not, it is like, it's much, that is to your very smart point about lumping all these different, very distinct cultures into the white group eliminates differences that we should be thinking about. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Even inside European cultures, vastly different traditions, closer perhaps than say someone in Eastern Asia, but still very, very different from place to place. And the fact that we've just kind of melted that all down into this, binary or between a couple few races, as if that's like the complete understanding of who peoples are and how they live their lives, is just silly. And again, I think that serves the purpose of really just melting down culture in general, right? Like, it looks like race is very divisive identity politics, right? Which to some degree it is. But the reason it feels so divisive, the reason it feels so unnatural, is it's thoroughly unrooted from actual organic ways of being. It's completely removed from the things that make your life better when you have a holistic identity. It's just this rough collection of hatred for people who happen to have a different skin color, which doesn't get you anywhere good.
So, shit. Hold on.
What?
All right. So I wanted to get your
What I heard?
Yeah, because I agree. This nation heritage culture is Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah, well, that's also interesting. If you pick them up and you look at the written renditions, archaic Old German, Old in English, Old Scandinavian read almost identically. The national language for the ruling caste in England, meaning the Plantagenets, that's William the Conqueror all the way up through when Oliver Cromwell overthrew the monarchy, was French in terms of their language and culture. So you've got a mix of the Romance, that's what they call French, Italian, Spanish, and such like. And you've got English, which brings in all of the rest of it. And you've added in some African and other places and Native American. So it's, as I said earlier, the United States is modern Rome, where all things come together. And Rome had an interesting situation that existed for 1,000 years that was disrupted by Christianity, and that was any religion or culture that was practiced or possessed by any Roman citizen was a legitimate one for Rome, so long as it did not advocate cannibalism or human sacrifice, even though that might have been practiced in the shadows. And that has made us a great nation because it has allowed a lot of things to be added to the mix. And what we wind up with is an alloy that is very strong. Now, that's why, by the way, one last little point. That's why we have free speech, because those people who were rejected by European society came over here and they had been in a serf, peasant, underclass commoner situation versus the landed aristocracy that ran everything in Europe. So they came over here, but they still brought the tradition through the English yeoman and commoner, who was a longbowman and was expected to be very warlike so that England could run and dominate the economic and, shall we say, political activity in Europe. So we had a culture of warriors and fighters who were very violent but understood the necessity of cooperating. That's why we have the Second Amendment. And the First Amendment is to allow this warlike militant group of people the opportunity to freely discuss the issues rather than just killing each other off. Now, that is being suppressed. It just happened to me. I was just telling us about it. Now,
I want to swing back to
but back to one thing,
culture, the heritage,
one
the American
one
heritage.
point about this that he's forgetting. What he is complaining about in terms of human nature is something known as xenophobia. It's spelled with an X.
Who was complaining?
The guy that was talking, he wasn't necessarily complaining. He was making an observation about this thing of being against others who are different. That is a fundamental characteristic of human nature. And we have done a lot over thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, tens of thousands of years to get beyond that. But it is part of our constituent nature, our psychological makeup. And it is something that needs to be dealt with. We all find the different repugnant. And you have only to look at food to see that. You have only to look at culture to see that. You have only to look at what people perceive as important in each other. In other words, do you have on the team uniform? Meaning, what does your face look like? What does your hair look like?
Well, also,
And these are unfortunate things, but they're realities that have to be worked around.
But also, the standard culture here in America is Anglo-Saxon. It is.
That is.
That is what you have to assimilate to. When we look at the Constitution, even though, yes, it is somewhat modeled after Rome as far as the Roman Empire, but it's Anglo-Saxon. It's nothing wrong with that. That is the culture here. When they talk about a United States of America, you are American, right? And even when I go to the South, and I'm from the North, they will call me Yankee, right? So even from North South, you have somewhat of two different cultures, but the overall underlining belly here is the ones who came here, conquered, implemented their constitution, their laws, their way of life is by way of Western Anglo-Saxon white culture.
That's what I said. You look at a Chinese convention in the People's Republic of China and everybody has on a suit and tie. That's Western.
I want to play this clip here of
And one last remark. I saw somebody who was heir to an African throne and his brother. Several hours on several occasions, they were meeting in my green room and we had discussions. And I got a practical demonstration of the difference between what kings and queens means when it is applied on the ground and what our way of doing things is about. And I very seriously doubt that the woke people would enjoy, let alone tolerate, what they are talking about when they want to go Pan-African, if you want to go back to that cultural tradition. What we have is a Western tradition that was brought here that has had influence from all over the world inputted into it. And it's not a bad thing.
Okay. I want to play this clip here of Anthony Scalia. This is before Scalia. This is before he was a Supreme Court justice.
Diversity alone is not what makes a great nation. I mean, diversity alone makes some of the tribal societies of the world that never quite make it, such as some of the places in the Middle East where we're trying to established nationhood. As I said earlier, it's part of our tradition that everybody can be an American, but there has been a common culture.
Yeah,
you don't have to belong to it, but there has been that. And
what is it? What is it?
What is it? Well, okay, you want to know what it is? Number one. Okay.
Is there a bond? Is there a common culture?
I think. Let me tell you a story. My junior year of college, I studied in Switzerland, and I used to get really annoyed when the French-Swiss professors I had would refer constantly to les pays anglo-saxons, the Anglo-Saxon countries, meaning England, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, okay, Canada. And I said, hey, my name is Scalia, and I'm as American as anybody. Look at this face. Is this an Anglo-Saxon face? I had never been in England, but at the end of my year, I went to England, and I felt at home. There is no doubt that American culture, American common culture, which nobody has to belong to, originates with English culture. And that includes Shakespeare, it includes nursery rhymes that we all know and that we use as examples. That's our common culture. And I think the framers recognized that. And diversity's fine, but diversity does not make a nation.
Okay, by the way, he
So
was on
he
the
kind of
Supreme
echoed the
Court.
same thing what the other gentleman was saying.
Yeah. But one little correction. If he looked like that before he got on the Supreme Court, he would look like a mummy now. That's not necessarily prior to him getting on the Supreme Court. Scalia's been there for a long time.
No, this was no. This was back in 2006, and it says here this is prior future Supreme Court justice. So he wasn't yet. This is back in 2006.
Well, he hasn't aged badly then.
Well, he's dead.
Yeah, but I mean, the last time we see pictures of him, he doesn't look too much different than this. And in 2006, I think he was on the Supreme Court. But anyway, that's Google.
Go ahead.
But I'd say this. You know what the answer to this whole thing is? It's ancient. You know what the saying is? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. So when you're in the United States, do as the citizens of the Republic do. So that is a polyglot culture that's made up of a lot of things, but the people who had the guns and the military structure to take advantage of this continent imposed it. And damn near everybody in the world has somewhat adopted that culture today. So it's a Western culture. It's a U.S. culture. I've been in some capitals around the world, and they do listen to the same kind of music all over the world now. They dress the same all over the world now. And to an extent, some of the ideation they have is universal, and to an extent, it's not. But that's just the way it is. There was Rome, and then there were the provinces.
See, this is right. Correction, because this X description was incorrect because they said a young Anthony Scalia. That's how you pronounce it? Scalia, future Supreme Court justice upholding Anglo-American law. So it says future, but in 2006, he was a justice since 1986.
That's what I was saying. Like,
Wait, one second. He died in 2016, and that was the end. He was still a justice. He didn't retire.
I know.
So he was there for a long time. Him and Ruth, right?
That's what I said. Something's wrong with that. In 2006, he was not a future Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, so that was
been on a while.
Right. So I think it's important. This is just a sidebar. This is why I'm saying this. I think it's important when people write the little descriptions under above these videos, we should do our own research.
Yeah, like I was telling you, one of the things I'm famous for in life is representing Ron Ward over in West Memphis, Arkansas, who at the time was the youngest person in the world on death row. I got his conviction unanimously overturned by the Arkansas Supreme Court. Somebody sent me an article, actually from the LA Times, where they didn't even mention my name, which is kind of like discussing the OJ case without putting Johnny Cochran's name in there. They totally erased me from the equation. So you can't always rely on what you get off of the net or Google. And there's that thing in the top left-hand corner about AI. And if you activate what it says about it, it says you should not totally rely upon it because it may be unreliable. And I know a lot of lawyers have been getting in trouble for getting their briefs written by AI, which turn out to be just total fantasy rather than reality. But it is what it is. So
Yeah, Ruth, she was nominated by Clinton, and she was confirmed in the Supreme Court in '93, but he was already there.
it was there since the
And
1980s.
yeah, by Ronald Reagan.
Yes, that's why my remark was that was not before he got on the U.S. Supreme Court, because that was what was this,
Well,
2006, 8, or whatever it was.
this says 2006, so he was already a Supreme Court
Yeah,
justice.
he'd been on there.
He just aged well. He just
Yeah,
aged.
but he'd been on there 30 some years
By that
already.
time. Right. Exactly.
So, you know,
Yeah. So
when
the
it's,
whole point is, so forget the sidebar now. Going back to what he was saying, he said when he went to England, he felt like home. That's just like some Black people when they first go to Africa, they say they feel like they're at home. I never been to any country in the continent of Africa, so I don't think I would say, oh, I feel like home, especially because I know I do have lineage literally from England and it's not Black. So maybe I would feel both. I don't know. So the fact is that because I'm an American, it's not like, ooh, you take on white culture. That's the heritage culture here. You get what I'm saying? So
well, yeah.
we automatically, we're born into it.
Let me say this. I had some African roommates when I was at UCLA, and most of them were from Nigeria. All right. They had a dish. It was called soup and farina. You'd take a ball of farina and you'd mold it in your hand and dip it in the soup mix, or what they call soup, and you'd eat it. Very unsanitary, but that's the way they did things. But farina was interesting because it was traditional with them, but farina is an American food product. That's the brand name for the stuff, farina. We used to eat it as kids instead of grits sometimes, or oatmeal. So I find it interesting that inextricably tied up with something that was known as soup and farina is the African goo, stew, and the American made product, literally, that you put in it. I've been around the world, and I notice when you sit at a table, there'll usually be Tabasco sauce on the table. And over here, there'll always be Worcestershire available if you go someplace with a steak. Worcestershire is English. Tabasco is American, but they are ubiquitous. So here you have this African nation where a classic food dish is soup and farina. Their stew with an American cereal product. So I just thought about that. It represents the homogenation of the world. When you think about pasta, what do you think about? Italy? But Marco Polo brought pasta back from China.
Yeah, that wasn't true. I did research that.
Well,
That
well,
wasn't true.
but I would beg to differ for you. Look at Chinese noodles and look where pasta came from.
Well,
And
Chinese noodles look different from Italian
yeah,
pasta.
but they are basically the same, and I'll tell you about that. Olive Garden, when it started off 40 some years ago,
I don't
more than
want to. I
that.
don't want to venture off to that because we have a
I
guest.
mean, I'm not getting off into it, but I'm just saying they had a machine they used to have at Olive Gardens right at the front. They moved them since it was unsanitary, and they would elect what they were going to give you: noodles, rotini, spaghetti, or they could even do the Chinese editions, and they would make it right there with the same machine. So it was a little blurb they used to have up there about how ubiquitous this whole thing was with this kind of
So listen, the thing
bread
is,
product and how
noodles.
we depend upon it.
Any culture in any part of the world can make noodles. You just because everyone has those ingredients. It is true that two things could be true at the same time. That the Asians, the Chinese had their type of noodles, and the Italians had their type of noodles. Marco Polo didn't have to bring noodles to Italy because they were already making
They
it.
weren't already here.
But yes, because noodles is made from flour and water, and they
I know,
flatten
but
it.
Medici and some others did some interesting things to people, including stringing them up in nasty ways because of this stuff and what had been brought back from China. Gunpowder.
But yeah, but Marco bringing noodles back from China, that is a myth.
That's Google. Yeah, I
No,
would
I didn't
say.
know. I actually did a deeper research than just Google,
Well,
but
okay, but I mean, I would assert the contrary for what it's worth. But
because
it's like gunpowder, or how about Irish potatoes? The potatoes that are known as Irish potatoes and caused so many from Ireland to come over here after the potato famine, those came from North America. All right. So, you get this. Where'd watermelon originate? Where'd black pepper originate? Where did the tomato originate? You see, you have all of these things that are ubiquitous around the world. Where does rice come from? What cultures were founded on rice? How about corn? The
I know, but
Romans used to
so
call
that's the
wheat
thing.
corn.
So
See,
rice,
so
and that's another thing. We can't say, oh, rice only came here. No, rice was already implemented in different parts of the world. You had different rice, like jollof rice. That's from the Jollof tribe, what we call now in Senegal. So they made their own type of rice. White rice is all, that is more synonymous with China or the Asian culture. So each
well, okay.
culture, each part of the world may have their rice, but it may be different types of rice and how they make it. Because rice, we have rice fields already here on this land here. So
No, we didn't have at the beginning, but it is a product, an agricultural product that is ubiquitous around the world now. But at one time, it wasn't. You can dig skeletons up out of the ground, find their age by various aging detection methods, and
all
see
right,
what the person has been
let me
eating. But I mean,
hold on
let's
a minute.
not get
Hold on,
into it.
hold
It's
on. I
just
know. Hold on. Because I saw Pamela, but I don't know where she went. So let me just get to the super chat real quick. Um, Thank you, Jackal. He says elephants, horses, cheetahs, and lions all evolved in the Americas and migrated to Asia, Africa. When extinct here and survived there, the judge is right on this. This was from earlier when we was talking about Spain and the cowboys and the stuff. What he
yeah.
was saying. And thank you to Jackal again. He says Reagan equal no fault divorce, amnesty for illegals, and his wife was a literal Satanist. Reagan equal. So I guess he's talking about Gavin Newsom. And he could be talking about Ronald Reagan as well, and Ronald Reagan's wife. So yeah, and which
I won't alter my opinion about the thing at the point, but let's put it this way. A personal acquaintance of mine, Ed Rollins, was White House chief of staff during the Reagan administration. And we used to sit at the Little Nell Bar in Aspen, Colorado after skiing. And we'd have long political discussions. We got to liking each other in terms of politics, and we made some interesting exchanges in terms of observations. So, yeah.
So I had saved this here. This is Stephen A.
Fair.
Smith. Yeah, he was being interviewed by CBS, and a question came up. I guess if he may run for presidency in 2028, and he's talking about some of the policies here. So I want to play this.
You played that already.
No, I didn't play this.
Okay, go ahead.
Took place, but make no mistake about it, we wouldn't have a border crisis under my watch. Hell no. We wouldn't have this crime that exists in the streets of New York. You wouldn't hear about me saying defund the police. We ain't defunding any police. I'm calling 911 when there's a problem. I know you're calling 911 when there's a problem. I'll be damned if I'm gonna have less police officers out there. There's gonna be more. That's me. I would focus on a flourishing economy and making sure we did everything we could, because I believe when you have something to lose, you know how to behave. When you have something to lose, you know how to behave. If you have nothing, you have nothing to lose. And as a result, you're willing to tear down anything, even if it's America, because you feel betrayed by a country that's supposed to be looking out for you and positioning you to thrive instead of wallow in misery and suffering. So of course I would pay attention to the economy. I would pay attention to all of those things. But I think in the end, when I look to answer your question directly about President Trump, everything he does is not wrong. But a lot of things he's done is not right. I don't.
And this is.
I gotta like him. I don't know about being presidential, but I gotta like him.
Let me play this clip here.
Make no mistake about it, we wouldn't have a border crisis under my watch. Hell no.
Oh wait, no, not this. Oh, maybe that's the same.
We wouldn't have this exist in the streets of New York. You wouldn't hear about me saying defund the police. We ain't defunding any police. I'm calling 911.
Oh, I played that one. Okay.
We wouldn't have this.
Was the same clip. Yeah.
You played some more stuff from that same clip earlier, but go ahead. I like the guy, no problem, but you know.
He needs to make a decision, especially if he's going to run for any type of office. Running as an independent doesn't count. Green Party, nobody takes them seriously. He's going to have to pick either you're going to run as a Democrat or a Republican. He's riding the fence too much. And if he's not going to run for office, you need to say it now. You're not running for office, but I think he likes the attention. However, he's trying to sit up here and say, do I think everything what Trump do is wrong? No, but has he done a lot of wrong? Yes, and that's an oxymoron. You make no sense. He is so afraid of going against his base because he is employed by Disney, right? He is so afraid of that because they would definitely do a serious smear campaign and probably throw some lies on top of it. And the fact is that maybe he's also afraid to embrace the Republican Party, but he is more Republican than anything because there was another. I'm sorry, 1 second. It's another clip that I want to play. Talking about Mandandi because Stephen A. Smith is a capitalist. Give me a second because I do have it here. 1 second. Where is it?
By the way, while you're looking, the phrase is National Socialist Workers Party. National Socialist Workers Party. The German acronym uses the letters N-A-Z-I. We know that is Nazi. So when you talk about totalitarian methods of repression, censorship, and suppression, you have to think socialist. So the closest party to that in the United States is the Democratic Party, and that's what you're seeing. One of the primary methods of the Nazis and the fascisti was to tell lies long and loud to the extent that you could get anybody, including the liar, to believe them, and in the course of your propaganda to accuse the other side of doing what you're doing.
Right. I don't know why I can't find it now. Like, this is so annoying. And I could
add it in as an edit later.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do because he was basically talking about Mandandi comment saying that each person should basically there should be a cap in income.
Nah, that's straight out of Comrade Lenin and Trotsky. Comrades Lenin and Trotsky.
Right. I'll just add that clip in the editing part. All right. So I see Pamela Denise backstage. Let's see. How are you? Oh, we can't hear you. It looked
How
like
about now?
Yeah. Yes. Hi.
Hi.
So
Hello, Judge. How are you?
Hi there.
So introduce yourself to the audience. Tell the audience who you are, and you're running for Senate in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, so I am Pamela Denise Long. I am running for U.S. Senate in Illinois with all the fun and wild things that are happening in our country. I am looking to bring not just common sense, but maybe competence and character and courage to the work that is required for us to save our nation from so many different things. But I'm looking to replace Dick Durbin, by the way. Tammy Duckworth's election is in 2028, but Dick Durbin is retiring from the U.S. Senate after, I think he served 15 terms between the House and the Senate.
So you texted me today and you said it's something you wanted to mention, model legislation to discuss.
Yeah, so, it's been intriguing to me to watch the political ads that are out right now. And it seems to me a couple things are happening, and Donald Trump is living rent-free in all kinds of people's heads. On one hand, on the Democratic side, you have people whose whole platform is about holding Trump accountable or going against Trump, resisting Trump, I think is the language that they're using, right? And that's their whole shtick. And then on the Republican side, you have people who don't really have policies of their own, but they're attempting to ride the president's coattails. And so while all of that grandstanding, and latching onto Trump is happening, real stuff is bad stuff is happening to Illinoisans. And I think probably people around the country. One, we surpassed New Jersey this summer as the state with the highest property taxes. In Cook County, which is where Chicago is, property taxes went up for several different places, but the predominantly Black areas, it went up almost 20%.
Put a number on that, because I'm born and raised in New Jersey. There are some people that pay taxes. Give me a second. Put a number on that, because there's in New Jersey, some people pay $20,000 to $30,000, $40,000 annually in taxes, property taxes. So you mean to tell me in the state of Illinois, and that's a Midwest state, people were paying between 20 and 40 in property taxes?
Here's what it says. It says Cook County rates, which of course includes the city of Chicago, but it also includes several suburbs. Buffalo Grove, I believe Schaumburg, a well-to-do suburb, and the like. And it says Cook County has some of the highest effective property tax rates in the nation, with a median tax bill of $6,349. So half of people pay more than that, half of people pay less. So $6,000 a year is what, $500 a month?
Yes,
so
that's low. Yeah.
Yeah, and that $6,000 is on a $335,800 home. Now, in Chicago, you're going to pay more than that, especially to live in certain parts of it. So yeah, and it's increasing by 20% though in the South and Southwest burbs, which are significantly populated by Black folks.
In Chicago, they're paying probably, before the 20% increase, what, $10,000 a year?
Hard to say, because it depends on which area you're in as well. Yeah, as to the home values and the like. So this data from the Cook County Treasurer's Office dated November 17th, 2025, says that the median residential tax bill on the city rose 16.7% to $4,000. Now, keep in mind though, you have baked into that some people who own their homes, but they live directly in more depressed areas, right? So if you're living in an up and coming, more affluent area, yes, your bill is very much competitive with what you just mentioned with Jersey, which is like
So it may not be the number, but the percentage, because again, New Jersey, you're starting with 10,000. And that could be in an urban area of Newark. And I think Newark now is 15, between 10 and 15. 10 is a low end. So okay. So then if you are next to New Jersey as far as equaling out with property taxes or surpassing it, that means you're over 10,000.
Yeah, so I don't know that it is. I'm sure it is the effective property tax rate.
Right. But either way, I say all that to say that's a problem.
Either way, people are leaving because of the taxes overall. They're fleeing. I have a map here somewhere that talks about the every county and what percentage they're losing every year and how many people have fled every year. People reach out to me all the time and they're like, I love my home state, but I cannot afford to live there. So,
because the property taxes could end up being more than what you pay in your mortgage, so
I just heard that example the other day, which is, how does that work? How do you pay more to the government than you paid to own the house to begin with? And first of all, like the idea that you have to keep paying property taxes, whether you own it or not, is a lot to me. Like if you've spent 40 years working and you're, I don't know, 75, whatever, why, and the government can come take your house because you don't pay property tax, you didn't pay your property tax bill off the very little income maybe that you do have. And even if you do have significant wealth, why are we continuing to tax you on something that, you need somewhere to live,
So what is the legislation?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of people in the community over the years talk about heirs property. So there's already some heirs property legislation that sort of, addresses some of the issues that have happened. Heirs property, of course, is property that upon the death of the person who owns it, there is not a verifiable, if you will and or a clean title, so to speak. So there's, and I know the judge can speak to this, but there's some debate about what's going to happen to it. And so a lot of people get preyed upon by speculators and just really unsavory characters get shoehorned into a will, for example, and then the family, even if they are in good relationship, are out. There are ways in which people go door to door, especially in New York. You've seen these people losing these brownstones. Somebody go door to door. People are strapped for cash. They find out you're delinquent on something. They come and make you an offer that's well below market value. It addresses that. It addresses the idea of one fractional heir forcing a sale at less than market value. And I think the idea, though, is to identify people who've made an institution of this, who've made it part of their business scheme to prey on people who are desperate, and to hold those folks accountable. So that's the bigger part of it, is the enforcement part of it, so that states and the Department of Justice and the like are specifically called in to this and activated in order to monitor it at the state level and have some funding around getting it done. The monitoring and enforcement of bad actors. So.
And I want to ask you a question. How is the campaign trail coming along with your campaign?
Yeah. So the election is March 17th. And so we are just about a month before Election Day. I was on CBS Chicago's morning show the other day, got a great reception from that. ABC 7 in Chicago presented a 2-minute statement that I pre-recorded. I had a debate at the University of Chicago. I've been quoted on the front page of several newspapers. One of my op-eds was posted downstate. So we have a great media reception, and people are finding me online and liking what they're hearing. Donations are rolling in. And I think people are starting to take it seriously now that we only have a month left, right? People get under a little bit of pressure and then they start to pay attention. And so I'm getting a great reception out of urban Chicago as well, Black folks who are fed up, as well as downstate. So it's going well. I think there's much more to come, and some really great things are in the works to push out the vote, to get out the vote, to get people registered, because a lot of folks, Republican and Democrat actually, are really fed up and they feel like the divorce doesn't matter. So we're getting people registered, getting people activated, and it's going well.
Well, let's go to Chicago real quick. I wanna. It's not pop culture. This is actually Chicago politics with this damn mayor. So this came out today. Let me just play a clip.
Well, the real Chicagoans that I talk to, that I communicate with, mostly Black and brown, actually, tell me that you don't seem to know the difference between illegal aliens and real Chicago citizens. They feel that you are siding with the illegal aliens over them in their communities. And okay. Sadly,
William, let's get to the question.
Let's get to the question. The real question is simply this. I don't know how to make it any more direct. An illegal alien from Nicaragua grabbed a woman on the north side last week, bashed her head into the sidewalk, knocked her unconscious, and raped her. If that had been your wife, Stacey.
Okay, all right, we're not going to answer it. Thank you. Right. Thanks, William.
All right. Would you want ICE to deport her?
All right. Let's move on.
Yes or no?
Let's move on.
Yeah, so actually this is not new. I remember when this came out, but they're retweeting this now.
They should. They need to rehash it, because that is a very strange position for somebody to take who is over the third largest city in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there was an incident, Megan Boss, I talked about her in my video about Dakara Thompson, another young lady, Laken Riley, of course, and a couple of other young women who were killed by illegal aliens in Chicago. It needs to be rehashed, and people need to really think about these decision makers who are ruling these sanctuary states and sanctuary cities, really need to think about the impact of what they're doing. And I don't know why Brandon Johnson feels so committed to this, because Chicago is a home rule city, so they don't have to accept illegal aliens, even though the state doesn't participate in, through a Republican governor of all things, the state of Illinois doesn't participate in helping immigration enforcement. But Chicago doesn't have to, it didn't have to accept all these people, but they did it anyway. So I'm curious to know what was promised, or, not to imply too much, but why do that? What was supposed to be the benefit to the city? When folks reported, who were Chicagoans and human service providers, that many of their resources were being diverted to illegal aliens. So I think he's going to have a very hard time when it comes to election time. In addition to that, what he's done with the reparations task force, people are having some questions about as well, because I'm sure you saw the clip where he said what he said about Clarence Thomas, where the question was posed, about, have you heard the Clarence Thomas's concurrence that laid out case law for programs that were benefiting legacy Black Americans particularly? And he said something about how he finds it hard to believe that Clarence Thomas has ever done anything to benefit Black people, therefore he ain't looked at it. And it's like, okay, so you're going to be mad at Thomas and not looked at the gift that he gave, or you going to be focused on the mission and do the thing? So yeah, he's going to have a hard time, really. So.
And on top of that,
favor.
Let me just say this. And on top of that, he added 20% on the property taxes for Chicago homeowners because of the billions of dollars that was spent on illegal migrants that put that city in a deficit.
Yeah, that's definitely how it's looking to people. And this whole thing that they did with these parking meters, the whole parking thing that they sold. We went to lunch one day after a campaign event, and it was like $55 for me to park for 2 hours.
Oh,
Do me a favor.
Yes, sir.
When Al Qaeda, ISIS, and Hamas strike Chicago, the ones that have been let in the country with no inspection, not vetted, with the illegals, don't let him forget what he said.
Very
well, hopefully it won't get to that.
It's going to. It's inevitable. All of the intelligence predictions are saying it's going to happen, but the news media is ignoring that because it differs from their narrative. But don't let them forget this.
Never. I don't. Yeah, they won't. It'll live forever. And that's the other thing. It's, why serve? What are they serving? What's the master that they are serving when it
Well,
comes to this?
if I might offer a little info, the
Mhm.
Census Bureau says that Illinois, New York, California, etc., are going to lose at least 6 congressional seats by
Mm.
2030 due to the flight from those states because of the oppressive tax, employment, and living circumstances that citizens are saying, hey, I don't want to put up with them anymore. So perhaps the illegals are brought in so that they can maintain the current level of congressional representation.
Mm. Well, and see, that goes back to this whole, well, it's connected to this idea that, many Western countries aren't birthing enough children to replace themselves. And so population stabilization had been in the works since the 80s when they did that Workforce 2000 report under Reagan. So, but then it becomes, how do you attract people to come to your state? How does Ron DeSantis make it happen, right? How does Texas make it happen? Why not replicate that rather than not only endangering your own citizens, but also changing the culture and dynamic of the United States overall? Chicago is a significant cultural center, right? So what happens in Chicago happens to the rest of us because not everybody's going to stay in Chicago. They're going to go to other places too.
Well, how about
Yeah,
this?
some migration.
In Texas, I'm told it takes 2 weeks to 2 months to set up the operation for a franchised food establishment. In
Mhm.
California, it takes 2.5 to 3 years to do the same thing. So why go to California? You see,
Right.
same thing with Illinois. It's like your conditions are oppressive to that kind of thing because you have a social agenda.
Yeah. Well, there
So
you go.
And
can
by the way, one other thing too, please pay attention to this matter of censorship. I got cut off earlier today, and I've had this happen one time in life, but I was in a foreign country and it said on this gray screen, it says your video services are being restricted for the next 2 hours because you are basically causing an unpleasantness or discomfort to some people who might be listening. And I think we were commenting on AOC
no,
versus
it's Hillary. It was Hillary Clinton. You were
Hillary Clinton versus
Mark Rubio.
yes, but I
I
would
don't
say
know. You were
that
talking. I wasn't on the
I
screen.
was
You
talking,
were
but
going in, and I didn't hear what you were saying, but I was looking at your expressions, even though I was off camera. Next thing I know, you fell off, and you couldn't get back on. So
yeah, I
I
had to
didn't want to go
change
back and
to
edit and upload that clip, but I'm curious to hear exactly what you were saying about
I
him.
was, yeah, I had to go through 3 Wi-Fi systems in order to get back on. And the
Wow.
last time that happened was I was in Switzerland and I got cut off for 2 hours because I was texting to my wife at the time some details about the airport, and they came on and said it was a security problem, so I would be restricted.
Well, what's
So
funny
you
is
can't even screenshot the thing because all you get is a black screen. It just won't screenshot. So that's happening in America with that kind of
to your
censorship.
point, because this is election season, there are certain things that are going on, whether it's X or YouTube, depending on who you're talking about, especially if you're
Mhm.
a Democrat, they're gonna try and suppress it, like certain names. Even with the Bad Bunny, they were really kind of
Mhm.
suppressing, some of that content, commentary, Jasmine Crockett's and so forth. So, there is some interference when you talk about censorship. Have you experienced any type of intentional censorship while you're on the campaign trail, you know?
Yeah. So if we're not talking social media, I know for a while my campaign account, I got at least 3 times I got a notice from X that, my account had been flagged for something. And then I added Elon the last time. I doubt that he saw it, but anyway, I did add him and be like, what happened to free speech or whatever? And I hadn't said or done anything. It was just kind of strange. And I don't know if people were pushing back. But in terms of censorship for me, yeah, there are some ways in which at least one person has been particularly aggrieved by, upset by my support for reparations, even though I'm not running on it, because as I've told the community, the legislature that we have is not going to sign. I don't believe they'll sign a law for it. And if they do that, that would be fantastic. But I don't think they're going to do that right now. But that doesn't make it wrong, right? I think people who've been harmed have a First Amendment right. It's not even, I think, our framers felt that when the government has wronged you, you have a First Amendment right to air your grievance with government and receive redress. And as a matter of fact, I believe that the Americans' first call to action is in part restorative. Our country has placed profit over us. It's placed foreign investment and foreign interests over us. It's placed businesses over us. So Americans First is an acknowledgement of that. And more than just an acknowledgement, it's also a call to get it right, to course correct. But so there are some people who've been particularly triggered by the fact that I support reparations, even though I'm not running on it. And in that, they miss the rest of my platform, which they like the other 99% of my platform that they absolutely support because it makes sense. And I've been talking about those things for a while. So, but I think, even somebody going so far as to take my flyer and put a red X over my face and post it online and then have me, people come by and attack me and stuff like that, but online. And I think now that we're close to the election and people have seen all the people who are running, including some people who have plenty of money, they're also seeing that I am the candidate who's able to cross over. You're in a blue state like Illinois, and under these current political circumstances, you need someone who has a crossover appeal and who can handle media. So with a media savvy who understands the issues and solutions and can speak to it without needing a prompt or a teleprompter and just really, So I'm seeing that people are seeing that I'm that candidate. I'm seeing that in the donations that we're getting. I'm seeing that in the people who are reaching out to me because it's bigger than any one person's feelings about reparations. It's not like I'm gonna go to Washington, D.C. and suddenly every Negro in America is gonna get a check, right? Like that's not how that works. So the idea that you're so bothered by it that you would want to disrupt the campaign when even by your own measure, everyone else running is not meeting expectation. I think that's a little selfish and short-sighted.
I wanted to stay on the reparations thing because I think I text this to you because in the state of Illinois, I mentioned the city Evanston, Illinois, launched their first U.S. municipal reparations program in 2021, $25,000 to eligible Black residents for housing, home improvements, or as direct cash payments to address historical discriminatory housing policies, i.e. redlining, between 1990 and 1969. The program has distributed over $6 million in hundreds of residents and descendants. Key details: the eligibility to qualify, individuals must be Black residents of Evanston who lived there between 1919 and 1969 or their direct descendants. It provides $25 per recipient, primary aimed at restoring housing, mortgage assistance, down payments, home repairs. And the initial fund is funded 3% on a tax recreational marijuana sales and local area real estate transfer tax. And as early as 2026, the city has issued payments to over 100 residents and continues to process and applications. The program has faced lawsuits claiming it is discriminatory. And I do want to bring it up because Judicial Watch, a conservative watchdog group, went on Fox Digital and said it filed a lawsuit against Evanston, Illinois to stop the city from paying Black residents reparations. They're quote saying there's a right way and a wrong way to do them. So reparations are to repair. And so we have provided in this country reparations in the past when somebody has been wronged by government and we try to make that person whole. This is by Michael Bakisha as senior attorney at Judicial Watch. The reparation program that you're seeing around the country that are being talked about aren't that. They are just entirely giving money, usually to Black residents, solely on the basis of race. And I mean, that's just problematic. So I wanted to get your thoughts on Illinois, the Evanston, Illinois.
Yeah, so as I understand the Evanston, Illinois program, and I'm not expert on the details because I haven't read their whole process and minutes and how they screen and who's received and all of that kind of stuff. But as I understand it, it's based upon injury. So the idea is if you lived in Evanston during that time, and you experience some kind of harm related to real estate discrimination, housing discrimination, then you can apply for it.
Excuse me, ladies, for that entire discourse, both of you were frozen and there was no sound coming through at all.
Oh, okay.
Not one word, and you were frozen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I saw you went out, and then I'm like, okay.
But I didn't go out. I was doing this.
Oh, I was reading something, so I didn't see you. Sorry about that.
I mean, you were out. There was no sound, no video. Well, the video was frozen. So the last I heard was you just started in.
So she's asking me about the reparations program in Evanston, the housing.
I heard that.
Oh, okay.
That I
That's
heard.
it.
And by the way, a suggestion on the legal side. I'm not giving you legal advice because I don't practice anymore. But all you have to do to make it a perfectly legit program, not just legit, but one that'll survive legal attack, is just take black out of it. Obviously, black folk are going to be the ones most impacted by this redlining. Just take that out of it.
Right.
And when people show how they got redlined, guess who's going to be the likely type of person that gets advantage of this? This thing has been going on a long time where you have to put this label on there, and there are ways around it. We dealt with that.
Why do they keep putting black? Why do they keep putting black?
Well, for a few reasons. One, a few reasons. One, because the people who are the class of inclusion are the descendants of the affected person. The other is they are attempting to show as I call it, an unbroken chain of harm, right, from the injury to present day. And Clarence Thomas's concurrence, as well as the conservative justices, didn't not say black. They talked about it. And what they say, though, is it's not based on race. It's based on the injury that you experienced. And by your experiencing the injury, you do have to specify the class of inclusion. And so he mentioned Black Americans all the time in the case law that he laid out. So I think people are trying to just make sure that we don't have another $5 Indian type situation, or, somebody who's been living in the nation as white or whatever for the last 100 years coming forth and hopping in line when they haven't endured the rest of the stuff. So that's my thought on why they did it that way. I do, however, have some questions about, I haven't read again who has been included in their history and stuff. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, just take that term black out, and you got a good law. It's remedial for people who have a certain circumstances. I just briefly, I helped draft one of the first affirmative action programs in the country back in 1966, 67 at UCLA. And we discussed this at great length. And it was, we can describe what the condition is we want to remedy without putting the term black in, because when you put the black in, you're going to run up with what we thought of as oppositional discrimination. Reverse discrimination became the term, and you've seen this go down. It lapsed from, it was effective until, I won't get into it, some black medical students at the University of California in Berkeley worked up a deal with Bakke and the faculty to set it up the way they do now. When Justice Roberts wrote that opinion 3 years ago on affirmative action, it read almost exactly like Black students and Hispanic students were putting in place along with Asian students to set up affirmative action. So if you leave the terminology out of it and describe the condition that needs to be remedied, you are on all fours, and it's not against white people. It's just people who were subject to this, irrespective of who you are, they get the benefit.
And it saves the trouble of dealing with someone who's trying to file a lawsuit to counter what you're doing. So, it's why run into problems, when you could avoid it? But so I wanted to bring it up because that is in your state, and this is the first. This is the first Evanston where they're
Well,
giving.
I think the other part that they're doing there is attempting to redress a specific harm, right?
And it
Native
makes
Americans, to a specific people. And
Mhm.
so the harm it's still harms based, I think is what they're testing in effect. It's still harms based, even though you're addressing a racial harm that happened and you know what I mean? And your class of inclusion is racially specific. But it's really like it's a class inclusion, right? For people. So it's interesting to me how feels like everybody else can have specific programs, but the legacy Black Americans seem to be everybody demands that we pull everybody along with us, right? Like Native Americans are exempt from this SNAP work requirements, right? And why?
That's because Article 6 of the Constitution says that treaties are part of the supreme law of the land. And we have executed a number of treaties that impact Native Americans because they are part of what was viewed as a sovereign entity, meaning the tribes.
And so then the question becomes too, when most of them fought for the Confederacy, those treaties were also negated, right? And so
Not
I'm
necessarily.
not trying to take anything away necessarily. All I'm saying is if the people who made the nation's wealth what it is can't get special dispensation, because Native Americans weren't developing the currency of the United States in the way that it is now. So if they can get special dispensation, why can't descendants of US slaves who made the country's money wealthy get special dispensations without people getting all triggered about it?
Well, the difference in a raw fashion very quickly is this. The position of Black Americans is quite similar to the horse and to the ox. They were domestic animals that got put to work.
Right.
The position of the Native American was they took scalps and nailed them to the lodge pole, and they were very dangerous and they were very lethal adversaries. So to cut down on the death, destruction, and physical resistance to the expansion of the republic, you had treaties with them. So that's the difference. They name trains and places after Native Americans, and other than Booker T. Washington School and Martin Luther King Boulevard, there's not much that Black folk have in the mix.
Yeah, except the culture is very much an outcropping or child, if you will, of Black culture. And the other thing here is, you were talking about treaties and something came to mind for me. Oh, they are required to provide the Native American freedmen with the same benefits as the tribes do, but they haven't gotten it. Maxine Waters was challenging them on that years ago, and they're slowly starting to do it. But who's even monitoring that at this point, right? So they kicked all these Black folks out of the tribal connection and came up with this whole blood quantum and all these other criteria, one of which is that you have to be connected to a tribe, but they kicked you out of the tribes, right? And so you're generations from connectivity, so that needs to be redressed as well. So yeah, there are a lot of things that need to be looked at.
Depends on the tribe. You have Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Creek,
But no
Seminole,
one should be kicked out of any tribe.
so the point is, it depends on what those tribes are. Those 5 tribes were known as the civilized tribes because they had a dictionary and written language.
But it seemed like even within those tribes, and it all of them could be guilty of kicking out certain people.
But see, Article 6.
Let me just say this, but it seems like the natives, they practice white supremacy or racism or discrimination within their tribes.
Well, it may be, but see, Article 6 of the Constitution specifically says there are 3 elements to the supreme law of the land: the Constitution itself, which includes the amendments, laws passed by Congress to implement the Constitution, not just the administrative laws. And the third one is such treaties as have been ratified by the Senate. They're right up there with the Constitution in terms of the supreme law of the land. So these treaties that are amongst the various Native American tribes are not all universally the same.
Right.
So it depends on what the individual circumstances are. Now,
Right, but my point is, with them having violated their treaties and negated them, just like the Confederacy, because they joined, most Native American tribes joined the Confederacy in their fight against the Union. A condition of those any treaties with them being reinvigorated was that they honor and provide access to the freedmen, equal access to tribal benefits to the freedmen, and they and those responsible for that have not fully done that. As a matter of fact, I forget the brother's name who just sued down in Oklahoma and won his lawsuit. Demario, I think is his first name, had to sue in order to get access. So, you know, treaties are both parties need to honor parties need to honor the treaty, is my
but
point.
see, it's a matter of enforcement. There are tribal courts, tribal laws, and to an extent, if the treaty reads the wrong way, then it's going to be left up to them. It's kind of like, okay, Canada discriminates against a class. You can't come down from Canada to the United States into an American U.S. court and get relief in Canada. That's up to Canada. But the U.S. can cut off foreign assistance, aid, or benefits to Canada for not honoring what their laws are relative to their interactions with their Native Americans. By the way, we have treaties with Canada and the tribes in question about their free access across the border. They aren't held to ordinary standards if they're active members of certain tribes. So those are matters that have complexities that are not easily resolvable. So some of them are diplomacy matters and some of them are courtroom type matters.
Well, thank you, Pamela.
But it's a good point. I mean, it's valid issue.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you coming on. Are you going to come back on beginning of March before the election?
Yes, let's do that. I'd be happy.
Because you've been booked and busy.
I have been, and that's a good problem.
Yeah,
especially when
problem.
especially when name recognition is the name of the game. So we're getting out here doing all the things, and yeah, we can talk about my coming back on. I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate the legal advice, or not legal advice, but the legal analysis and insight.
I'm being a law professor here, not attorney.
The legal education. But listen, I want everyone to go to her website, www.longforsenate2026.com. Support. If you live in the state of Illinois, vote. And if you don't, donate. So it's all about money when you're running for office. So
and you're probably 2 degrees of separation for someone in Illinois. So tell a friend, because they probably know somebody in Illinois. For sure.
I stayed on 71st and Constance back 1971, 72 when I was doing an intern thing between there and D.C. And the old man lived there for a while, and I've got relatives who were born in Illinois. So, yeah, it's a cool place.
So
used to be anyway.
I love it. I love Chicago. It's my favorite city. Every time I see the skyline, it brings a smile to my face.
Right. Yeah, and it should, you know. I haven't been, but I do plan on going in the spring or summer. So, yeah.
That's real. Spring starts around May, though. Just be aware.
Okay. Damn. Okay. Well, I'll be there. But thank you so much. Definitely going to have you back on. And I really appreciate you taking the time out coming on the show today.
Thank you. Take care, y'all.
All right.
Bye.
Always love having her on. Great guest. And guys, please go and support. I'm really gonna have to speak to Black people, because y'all motherfuckers don't support shit. I'm sorry. Y'all can have attitude. I don't care. Y'all don't. And this is not to white people. This white people are excluded because white people support. They support definitely with their money. They support with their time. They do. Black people support when it comes to non-important issues?
Well, non-important
I
to
knew this show
ordinary
today was
people.
not going to get a lot of views because I wanted to talk geopolitics.
I
And
think
and let me just say this channel, because I am Black, let's just make this clear, the algorithm do push Black content creators in the Black lane. And that is because Black audience, you pay attention to certain things, and most of the time it is non-geopolitics. Even though Monday show, Man Up show, is politics. But this particular topic today with the Munich Security Conference and Rubio and Hillary, I knew it was not going to do well, but it was great content. It was very informative. But I say all that to say, niggas y'all don't support. And when you have these Black candidacies, let me just stateswomen and statesmen, not your average regular politician, you don't financially support like you should.
Okay, let me give you a little piece of word up on this. I think we're being lied to by the people that supposedly keep the statistics. You and I have said some things that show low ratings or low viewership when you look them up, but I have had people discuss in detail what we've said from all over the country, and statistically, it's impossible for this number of random individuals to have heard what we said or discussed with what we are being reported to have had. Kwame Brown and I did something some years ago. We got over 9 million views, but by the time they got through diminishing those views, which can't be undone, they had reduced it down to 800,000. Why? You don't want somebody tuning in to see what everybody else is looking at and spreading the word. So there is a deliberate misinformation campaign, and that's their favorite term, remember? Misinformation, because they're familiar with it, because they apply it themselves. And I think, considering what's happened censorship wise to me today, and what just happened about all of this just disappearing where I could see myself move, but you ladies were frozen and no sound, means somebody's paying attention to this for some reason,
Or it
and
could
they
be your
don't want it
Wi-Fi.
spread.
It could be your phone, it could be your Wi-Fi.
No, but now screen would come up because of disturbing somebody. My video access will be restricted for the next couple of hours, and then not being able to screenshot that message. It's on a blue-gray screen with black letters in it. Not being able to screenshot that, no, that's not Wi-Fi problems. That's somebody coming in through the bloody doggone thing. And we are being censored. What we say is not appropriate for the mainstream propaganda effort.
Well, listen, guys, go and support Pamela. We have Pamela Shanice Long running for Senate in Illinois. You have P. Ray, she's running for Congress in Illinois, both Black women, both Republicans, so there are a lot of new faces. And even if they are not elected, you gotta understand your support and your money gears them up for the next election. And out of Ohio, we have Rosemary, I got to reach out to her, bring her back on. She's running for Congress as a Republican for the state of Ohio. So these are a lot of new faces, whether they get in or not. It is important to put your support around these individuals, because to me, they're more statesmen than politicians. And this is the future, and it should be the future when it comes to politics in Black America and in America, period. So support, because again, like I said, even if they don't win, that support and that financial support gears them up for the next election. So, this is not, oh, I lost and that's it. No, you keep going, you keep trying. And each time you get out there, you're networking and gaining more traction, more recognition, and more support. So that's why it is important to support these faces. And last thing on this, because there's one more thing I want to bring up. this is a Republican. I'm a Republican, so this is. I don't want to say conservative because there are a lot of Democrats who are conservative, right? But this is a Republican channel. Sorry, I am a Republican. And I do support Trump and the Trump administration. I don't have to agree with every single thing, but I support Trump. I support Mark Rubio, JD Vance. This is a Republican platform.
Well, I'll say this since I'm the one that's headlining this tonight or the day. Democrats are poison to me because they still have a crucial issue to resolve. How much facial hair can a guy have and still piss in the girl's bathroom?
Right. So
yeah, basically.
this
So
is
that's the be all end all. That just knocks everything else out of the box from then. By the way, one little message on air property. Any type of property that's inherited or acquired through inheritance is heir property. Where the problem comes in is when that's not controlled. You find one of many grandchildren or great grandchildren in another state or somewhere may be strapped for cash, and they sell their interest in what can prove to be a valuable property to an outside interest who becomes a tenant in common and demands a sale so that they can get their share out of it. And then the rest of the family is wiped out of any connection with the property when the sale occurs. And the interloper becomes possessed of the property interest because it's cheap to buy out the heirs who have lost it. Did a study for a congressional committee 43 years ago and studied that in West Tennessee. So yeah, it's a thing.
Don Lemon.
Oh, lemon booty.
In a federal courtroom.
Did you hear that?
In a federal courtroom?
Yeah, okay. So let me play this.
Lemon pleading not guilty in a federal courtroom in Minnesota today. He's charged with conspiring to deprive others of their civil rights with violating the FACE Act, which prohibits the use of force to interfere with someone's religious freedoms as protected under the First Amendment. Now, this case stems from his live stream coverage of an anti-immigration and ICE protest that interrupted a church service in St. Paul last month. So for more on this case, I'm joined now by ABC News legal analyst Brian Buckmeyer. And Brian, first, Lemon, he's an independent journalist who was working protected under the First Amendment. I want to get your take of something that he said outside of court today. Take a listen.
This isn't just about me. This is about all journalists, especially here in the United States. I will not be intimidated. I will not back down. I will fight these baseless charges, and I will not be silenced.
You hear him there saying, I will not be silenced. But, I mean, what is his exposure here if he's convicted?
Alex, it's a lot. There are two main charges here. There's a violation of the FACE Act, or the freedom of access of clinic entrances, and that also covers churches as well. That's punishable by up to 1 year in prison. But he's also facing a charge for violating or conspiring, to violate someone's constitutional rights. That has a penalty of 10 years in prison, so 11 years in total if convicted.
Well, there are a lot of folks that are concerned about how this might impact the First Amendment, especially whenever it comes to the press and freedom of speech.
Absolutely. So this, especially as the DOJ is arguing, is about competing interests of individuals being able to participate in the religion and in church, and also the First Amendment right. But I think there is some confusion in the way that the DOJ is applying this, because it appears that it wasn't Don Lemon's intent to disrupt people's ability to go to church, but he was recording others disrupting. And I can see this being a potential infringement on the First Amendment right to be able to document things of this nature, because he's being, what I understand to be, embedded in this group. And it's going to affect a lot of journalists. I mean, Alex, you and I have talked about this. I make the joke that I'm just an attorney, you're the actual reporter, but this is a part of what reporters do. They embed themselves in groups and then show us the inside out. And if there's a ruling unfavorably to Don Lemon here, it would really ask the question of, what if someone's going to a war zone? What if someone's going and interviewing drug cartels and getting information that we want? Are they now war heroes or war villains or part of those cartels? It could limit the way that the media does its job.
Yeah, no, well, and that's a really good point. Something else that's interesting about this this case, Lemon's attorney is one of several federal prosecutors who recently resigned from the Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office over the investigation into the fatal shooting of Renee Good. So I'm curious, I mean, what type of expertise do they bring to this specific case?
I wouldn't say it's like necessarily a legal expertise. Someone who is not within that organization, who never was, and now is defending someone would have a similar expertise legally. But they're going to know the inner workings, not just of that investigation or of that process that this government agency is going through, but also the actual office that's prosecuting Don Lemon. They're going to know the deputies. They're going to know the line prosecutors. They're going to know the paralegals. They're going to know how it works, and they're going to know where to apply pressure and where to poke holes in this case.
Brian Buckmeyer.
Okay, let's analyze that. Junior, you're wrong about the way you presented it. A journalist can be embedded, but a journalist reports, he does not plan nor participate. The equivalent, since you talked about infiltration with or becoming embedded in a drug cartel to report on it, includes today they did such and such. It does not include before the fact saying we're going in there and we're going to sell 15 kilos of coke to these buyers, and we have planned out how we're going to do it. See, that's what Don Lemon said when he shot his big mouth off when he went in and had himself recorded talking to the people before the invasion of this church. He said, we've sat down and planned this. We're going to go them and we're going to show them. And he went in and he started going to the mic in the face of the pastor of the church. And what about this guy that you have, or an assistant pastor who is a member of ICE? And he's rah-rahing what's going on. So he becomes complicit in, he becomes an accessory to, and he becomes a conspirator because he says himself he participated in the planning of the event. It violated allegedly the civil rights of the individuals who were in that church. So you're way out of line on that one. And reporting is one thing, participating in the event is another. So he put himself in there, and no, he's not likely to get 11 years. This guy obviously hasn't practiced any federal criminal law. That's what he would be subjected to as a cap. So what he actually gets would be dependent upon sentencing guidelines. And to explain those, I would offer to anyone this question. What are you going to pay IRS this year in taxes? You don't know because you haven't filled out your 1040 forms, and you won't know until you do. So you can't tell what somebody is going to get as a sentence in the federal system since you can't bargain to that. That is a determination that is made by the judge when he literally fills out the forms after hearings held in front of him and determines what the guidelines stipulate as the appropriate sentence. In the federal system, you cannot have a plea bargain for.
I'm so sick of his connection. Somebody called him this time. It's not no censorship. Somebody actually called him, and it's starting to get very annoying at this point. This live is going straight to my membership anyway. Or I may just privatize this live because I'm gonna be chopping it up and uploading clips. So yeah. Yeah, Sarah. I think so. I think so. There you go. Somebody called you?
No, they didn't.
Oh.
I got
Well,
the yellow thing across the top saying connectivity.
I want to play this clip here, right? Speaking of Don Lemon. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but this person says this radio host is a friend of Don Lemon's. When he was confronted with the video evidence exposing Don Lemon's, basically saying he knew of what was going down. So
I was recently in a debate with a friend of Don Lemon's. I present him with the evidence. We have proof that Don Lemon knew he wasn't supposed to go in the building. Brian walks right into this trap.
As you know, I've had plenty of conversations with Don Lemon. And there was one statement that I made with you where I mischaracterized Don Lemon knowing that it was going to be at a church. He knew that there was going to be a protest. He did not know that it was going to be at a church.
Are the congregants really on live instead of in service right now?
No, but they'll be like, why is Don Lemon here?
Sunday morning. Sunday morning church.
And if you look at the live feed, my understanding is they wouldn't even tell him where it was going to be.
It doesn't get more clear than this. And when Brian is confronted with the evidence, it gets very funny very quickly. You can see him on camera in the car talking about, should we go in the church or not? He even says on camera, no, we're not allowed to go in the church, so we're going to have to wait outside. But then cut to a few minutes later, they decide to go in.
I don't think we can go ahead. I don't think we can go inside, right? No. No. We can stand outside.
So he obviously knowingly did something he knew he wasn't supposed to do. Would you dispute that?
He was doing something that he knew he wasn't supposed to do.
When he sits in the car with his producer and says, well, we can't go in the church.
Well, I know I'm also not supposed to really go in, right?
You think you want to go in? You can't. Will they let you in with the camera?
With the backpack. Put it in your backpack.
No, they can't do that. We can't do that.
His producer says, yeah, we can't. We'll have to stand outside. But then they go in the church.
Yeah, I didn't see that video. I'll have to go back and I'll look at his exact words and what he used. But
and I understand he's your friend. I understand it's
no. I mean,
no,
not really. I mean, I'm being honest with you. I think this is a joke. Taking out your phone and recording is not interrupting something. Is that fair?
You're equating what Don Lemon did to taking out your. You did this last time we talked. You were like, hey, if I was in that church service, I saw what those people come in, I would take out my phone and record and ask you, why are you bringing up this point? It makes no logical sense in comparison to what we're talking about, because that's not what Don Lemon did. He began by trying to artificially create a frame that Don Lemon was just taking out his cell phone to record. And what's wrong with that? But no, he arrived with a camera crew.
I'm just talking about the act of taking out your phone and recording is not disrupting anything. We can't agree on that basic premise.
Taking out, but why are you bringing that point up though? You're saying that's what Don Lemon was doing?
Because that's what he did. He did two things. He took out his phone and he started recording on his phone and he conducted some interviews.
So let's take a look at these interviews. Was he really conducting interviews, or was he trying to push an ideology on the people in the church?
No. Did you know that undocumented people and immigrants commit far less crime than American citizens?
We're done here. We're done here.
Than natural-born Americans? You won't listen.
How is that just conducting interviews? That's debating with the people in the church when they don't even want to talk to you.
That's
all. At some point, Don Lemon might have taken out his phone and recorded, but that's not what he's being critiqued for. He brought a camera crew. And there's a lot of other components to this. So,
quote, you won't listen, unquote. That's not the reporter. I'm asking you a question. Why don't you answer? Not you won't listen. In other words, the guy says, you're in here trying to push an agenda on me. I don't want to hear it. So Don Lemon says, you won't listen to my agenda. And he talks earlier in this. We went into it before. He talks about the planning. He's aiding and abetting, giving advice, counsel, assistance, or comfort to somebody that's breaking the law. He is an accessory because he's using his position to spread the position of this organization. He's spreading their agenda. He's not reporting on it neutrally and in a detached fashion. He is an advocate for the position.
And here's the thing, that day, Don Lemon recorded himself landing in Minnesota. He recorded the whole 24 hours he was there live on his channel. So it's evidence of everything this man said. It was unedited. So for you to say you didn't know what these people were going to do when you were talking to the head organizer before they actually went in. So I'm going to play this clip
And
here.
you planned what you were going to do by giving them the PR. You say, this is what we're going to do to push your position. We'll be there to help you and spread the word you are trying to get out.
Right.
And see, that becomes liable for criminal prosecution.
I want to play this clip here. This is Pam Bondi last week in front of the congressional hearing, and she is speaking to the Don Lemon prosecution.
Recognize.
May I have one moment?
You may.
Her district includes Culver City, and she's not talking about any crime in her districts. Nothing about helping crime in her district. She's not even worth getting into the details.
Well, thank you, Madam Attorney General, and we are grateful to have you here today. And let me just say that you've shown great perseverance today, and I think you're coming to the last lap here of those of us that are left. But I applaud your strength, and I applaud your resolve. Madam Attorney General, as a pastor for over 37 years now, I take serious issue with any attempts by agitators to disrupt church services or activities at houses of worship. And I just want to take a moment to clarify some things. I realize you can't talk about pending cases per se, but I do want to ask some very general questions for clarification. Does the DOJ consider unauthorized entry into a house of worship to be protected activity under the First Amendment when undertaken by a member of the press?
Unauthorized with the intent of disrupting, yes.
Okay.
Even if it's a blogger like Don Lemon.
Correct. How does the DOJ distinguish between news gathering activity and expressive or protest conduct when a press defense is asserted?
Congressman, I met with the pastor of that church, and what happened there was horrific. Of course, the press is welcome, and I would hope all houses of worship, whether it's a synagogue, whether it's a church, any house of worship. However, what happened here is a pending case again, but within the four corners of the indictment, they were, quote, gearing up for a resistance. They entered a house of worship, and I think the video speaks for itself. What happened in there, what the video doesn't show, is there were approximately 400 parishioners in there on a Sunday morning, families, grandparents with canes, children upstairs in Sunday school their parents were blocked from getting to them once this resistance took place, and they had named it Operation Pull-Up. It was heartbreaking for those families. They were terrified. I think they've all said that. And nothing like that should happen in this country, and under my watch, it won't.
Thank you. And just to clarify, accosting members of a congregation and creating a scene marked by intimidation and threat inside a house of worship would not be protected First Amendment activity, correct?
Absolutely not, and a grand jury has indicted individuals over that.
Thank you. One other question, just shifting a little bit. You know, my home state of North Carolina has been making national headlines at times, and particularly in the city of Charlotte. We've made pleas at times for our governor to get involved, bring in the National Guard, our fraternal order.
I think he was going into the immigrant thing with the.
Yeah, but I just make one facetious comment. She looks a hell of a lot better, this attorney general, than Clinton's did.
Yeah, but she got kind of slaughtered in that congressional hearing. It's not that she didn't get slaughtered. You know what it is with her?
Slaughtered. She's dead right.
Yeah, but you know what it is? She's trying to do her job. Doing the job is not asking media questions constantly, or congression or politicians who really don't know the law. And there are certain things, and you know this because you said it. There are certain, first of all, there are certain things that you can and cannot say when you have an open investigating case going on. Number one. Number two, justice is not speedy; it is slow. So she don't have answers because they haven't gotten to that point yet. And I'm gonna say number three, they are trying to paint her as if she doesn't know what she's doing because of her demeanor. Everyone don't have to be like, ugh. Some people be like, yes, I'm tough. But this is just because I talk like this doesn't mean I know what I'm doing or I'm not tough. You can still be tough. And yes, sir, yes, it's her tone. And so people don't equate that type of tone with someone who may know what they're doing. So it's more of a prejudice. It's like prejudice against her because of her tone, because of her looks. But at the end of the day, when you look at what she's doing, yes, she supports Donald Trump, but she also wants to follow the law, because if she doesn't follow the law, her ass is going to be up shit's creek. And and she wants to win cases. And you know this, to win cases it doesn't happen overnight. And it seemed like the general public wants a verdict overnight.
Well, let's just say this. I've been dealing with adversarial proceedings for half a century, actually a bit more. And I don't take her as having a meek voice. I take it as affirmative, assertive, and authoritative. Now,
Well,
that
true. Maybe
concern,
she's just not a public speaker. Some people are just
I
not.
don't even find in terms of what she's doing, I think she's doing well. In fact, she's more articulate than just about any attorney general
I
I
think she's
have
very
heard in
transparent.
a long time. But let's put it this way. When you have a pending criminal case, it's not exactly the best tactic, especially under the federal system, to tip off your opponent as to what you are up to. So you have things, your cards are face down on the table. And under the federal system, you don't have to turn them over. On a state system, you pretty much have to turn some of them over, and some of them are showing. It's like blackjack versus some forms of poker. Now,
Oh, and
that said,
I will say this about Pam Bondi. She doesn't give people attitude. She's very transparent. She answers your question. And if it's something that she can't answer because of a legal procedure, she will say that. So what more do you want from her?
actually, I don't think she's even that meek and mild. I think she kicks ass in an appropriate fashion, and I like it. I like
She's not
lawyers.
nasty. Like,
Well, I like lawyers who are
Letitia
affirmative.
James is nasty. Fannie Willis is
Letitia
nasty.
James is an idiot.
No, but what I'm saying is Fannie Willis is nasty. Letitia James nasty. Jasmine Crockett, and you don't have to be
They see those two aren't really competent as prosecutors.
No,
They
I'm not saying that.
no, I mean
I'm
seriously.
talking about the demeanor.
I know, but hold on. Seriously, as an oppressed professional evaluator, and that's what my job was for 35 some years. They lack. They are agenda driven people. They are not creatures of the courtroom.
Right.
They are used to relying upon PR, acquire listening to them, rather than trying to convince independent, detached, and objective people.
All right, let's swing it back to Don Lemon.
Don Lemon should be prosecuted because he was not being a passive recorder of events. He was a participant in the events. He, from his own statements, appears to have planned the events, and he was there to aid and abet the violation of the law by promoting what was going on as a cause celebre. He was not independent recorder who reported what happened. It's like what he was doing would not be sitting in the courtroom and taking notes on what the testimony was about. he'd be somebody standing up shouting or wanted to ask the witnesses questions and participate in the proceedings, which is a no-no. So that would be the easy way of saying it. A reporter would objectively sit there quietly, unobtrusively, and record what's going on. He was not doing that. He was attempting to insert and insinuate himself into proceedings.
Yeah. All right. That's it.
Which means you're liable for jail time. Now, what they're talking about with the FACE Act had to deal with people outside of abortion clinics and other such places trying to interfere with the people who wanted to exercise their ability to go in and do what they wanted to do. Now, see, guess who came up with those statutes? It wasn't the conservative right wing that came up with FACE, it was the left. Remember what I told you about be careful what you advocate for. It may come back to bite you because it's a two-edged sword. So now the left is being bitten by the FACE Act, which they wanted put in place in order to protect access to abortion rights.
All right, that's it. We're done. Thank you to Lester. Great knowledge for my future ambitions. Thanks, Dana. You are greatly welcome. Thank you guys for tuning in. And we'll see you Thursday. Well, no, you'll see me Wednesday. So I'll see you back here Wednesday. And everybody have a wonderful week.
We might do a X Space again.
Oh, Tuesday night. Yes, you're back.
I've been restored. I
Yeah,
did what
so-
she did. I mentioned that I might have to bring this to Mr. Musk's attention.
Right. So yeah, join the judge on X tomorrow night, Tuesday night at Judge Joe Brown TV. All right, everybody.